There is a sacred rhythm to life, a quiet intelligence that pulses beneath every breath, every breeze, every beat of your heart. You were born of this rhythm, not separate from it, but as it, a wave of the infinite ocean, a flicker of the eternal flame. And yet, somewhere along the path, you began to forget. You began to chase. You chased approval. You chased answers. You chased dreams that never truly belonged to you, believing that only in the grasping, in the reaching, in the relentless pursuit of more would you find your wholeness. But chasing is the song of the ego, a song that always ends in dissonance. The soul does not chase. The soul allows. The soul remembers. You are not here to hunt down your purpose like prey. You are here to open your arms like the sky and allow the purpose to arrive like the morning light, unforced, effortless, divinely timed. Because what is meant for you cannot miss you. What is truly yours does not require struggle. It arrives when you are ready to receive, not when you are desperate to attain. The Tao Te Ching teaches, do you have the patience to wait until your mud settles and the water is clear? Can you remain unmoving until the right action arises by itself? This is the essence of allowing. This is the wisdom of the way. But the mind resists this. The mind, shaped by a world addicted to striving, panics at stillness. It whispers lies. If you do not chase it, you will lose it. If you stop running, you will fall behind. If you do not push, you are not worthy. But the truth is, what you chase will always run from you. Because in the energy of chasing is the vibration of lack, and the universe responds not to your words, but to your frequency. When your frequency screams, I need this to be whole, the universe must echo back your belief in incompletion. But when your being radiates, I am already whole, and I trust what is mine to come, then you become a magnet not through effort, but through alignment. Look to nature. The flower does not chase the bee, it opens. It simply becomes what it is, fully, unapologetically, radiantly. And in that state of being, all that is needed comes to it. The sun finds it, the rain nourishes it, the pollinator arrives, drawn not by force, but by essence. You are no different. You do not need to chase love. Become love, and love will find you. You do not need to chase abundance. Live in the frequency of enoughness, and abundance will arise around you like grass through cracks in the pavement. You do not need to chase your destiny. Walk in truth, and your destiny will recognize you by the light in your eyes. To allow is not to be passive. It is to be profoundly powerful, because to allow, you must trust, and trust is the highest form of faith. Trust that the same power that orchestrates galaxies and tides and seasons also knows the path of your life. You were not placed here by accident. You were not forgotten. You were not overlooked. Everything is unfolding in perfect rhythm, even your delays, even your detours, even your heartbreaks, especially your heartbreaks, because pain does not arrive to punish, it arrives to purify. It arrives to burn away the lies that block your receiving, the lie that you are not enough, the lie that you must earn joy, the lie that you are separate from God. But you are not separate. You are the vessel of the divine, the temple of the infinite, the breath of the eternal cloaked in form. The more you remember this, the more you let go of grasping. And the moment you stop grasping, your hands become open to receive. Do you see? You were never asked to strive, you were asked to surrender. To surrender not in weakness, but in wisdom. The wisdom that says, I do not need to control life, I need only to align with it. When you are aligned, the current carries you. When you are aligned, the right people appear without effort. When you are aligned, you do not have to chase, because your life becomes a prayer that the universe cannot help but answer. But alignment requires trust. Trust that the timing is divine. Trust that silence is not absence. Trust that waiting is not punishment, it is preparation. What if every unanswered prayer was a doorway being carved? What if every delay was the hand of God rearranging the path so that it may be smoother when you arrive? What if the reason you haven't received it yet is because what you're asking for is still growing wings? Let go of the timeline. Let go of the how. Let go of the illusion that you must chase, convince, or prove. Instead, allow. Allow joy to surprise you. Allow grace to catch you. Allow the universe to show you that it is not your adversary, it is your beloved partner, conspiring always for your expansion. But the universe does not shout, it whispers, and to hear it, you must become still. Still like the forest before dawn. still like the surface of a pond reflecting the sky, still like the inner knowing that needs no proof. This is where your power lives, not in the force, but in the flow. Let the river carry you. Let the seasons shape you. Let the wisdom within you rise like the moon without needing to be pushed. You are not behind. You are not late. You are exactly where you need to be hearing this now, because your soul is ready to stop running and start remembering. Remembering that you are already the love you seek, already the abundance you pray for, already the light you hope to find. Stop chasing. Start allowing and watch how the universe begins to deliver. And so you breathe again, not just to fill your lungs, but to empty your fears. You breathe not as an act of survival, but as a sacred return. With every inhale, you come closer to the truth that you've always been enough. With every exhale, you release the illusion that you ever had to earn your place in this world. The trees do not question the worthiness of their bloom. The mountains do not apologize for their stillness. The ocean does not hesitate in its dance with the moon. They do not chase, they trust. And they remind you in every whisper of wind and every shimmer of dawn that you too were born to trust the intelligence that breathes all things into being. You see, the universe is not blind to your desires. It hears every longing, even the ones you do not dare speak, but it does not operate by the urgency of the ego. It moves with the calm, unshakable patience of eternity. And when you align yourself with that rhythm, you no longer live from desperation. You live from depth. This is where the ego trembles, for the ego feeds on urgency. It cannot survive in the presence of peace. It will tell you that without striving, you are falling behind, that without effort, you are invisible, that without recognition, you are nothing. But I tell you, the most radiant souls are not always seen by the eyes of the world. They are felt. Their presence is the message. Their peace is the proof. You do not need to shout to be heard by the divine. You do not need to hustle to be seen by grace. The sacred does not speak the language of striving. It speaks the language of surrender. And surrender does not mean to give up. It means to give in, to fall back into the arms of the universe, knowing you are held. There is no weakness in this. Only the courage of remembering that you are not the doer. You are the vessel through which the doing flows. And when the doing flows from stillness, it becomes inspired. When you move not to prove but to express, life becomes art. And in that artful living, the right people appear, the right doors open, and the right answers rise from within, not because you chased them, but because you made space for them to arrive. Stillness is not stagnation, it is the birthplace of all movement. Just as silence is not emptiness, but the home of all sound. In your stillness, you become the receiver of the divine frequency. And that frequency is always broadcasting, but only those who cease their inner noise can hear it. Be among the few who dare to listen without expectation, to listen without demand, to listen with the kind of faith that can wait a lifetime and still call it grace. Because when you are in alignment, the delay is never denial. It is refinement. It is preparation. It is the loving precision of the universe rearranging what must shift so that your soul can meet its destiny fully awake. And when that moment comes, when the unseen becomes seen, when the long-awaited arrives, not with thunder, but with a whisper, you will not feel surprise. You will feel recognition. You will say, of course, because somewhere deep within you, you always knew. You knew you were meant for this. You knew it would come not by force, but by faith. You knew that the universe was not ignoring you. It was sculpting you silently and perfectly into a vessel capable of receiving what you once tried so hard to chase. And in that moment, you will weep, not for the waiting, but for the remembering. The remembering that the power was never in the pursuit. The miracle was always in the allowing. There is a subtle shift that happens in the soul when it stops pleading with life and starts dancing with it. A grace enters, a softness. You no longer brace yourself for disappointment because you realize that nothing true can ever pass you by. What is aligned with your soul does not arrive through pressure. It arrives through permission. You permit it to unfold by no longer needing to control it. And control is the great illusion. The illusion that says, if I can tighten my grip, I can guarantee the outcome. But the sacred is never controlled. The sacred is invited. It enters like breath into open lungs. It enters like light through an unguarded window. When you try to control life, you squeeze the miracle out of it. But when you let go, life reveals itself in ways your planning could never imagine. You were not born to grip. You were born to trust. You were not born to predict. You were born to flow. And when you flow with the current of your own inner truth, you discover something astonishing. What you were chasing begins to chase you. Not because it is chasing, but because it recognizes itself in you. Like rivers returning to the ocean, like birds finding their way back to the sky they never left, the things that are truly yours come home when you come home to yourself. There is no substitute for this inner return. No goal can replace it. No relationship, no title, no achievement can stand in for it. Until you are home within, you will be a stranger in every room you enter. You will seek love in faces that cannot reflect your worth. You will seek peace in places that were never meant to hold it. You will keep reaching and never touching. But the moment you sit still, truly still, without expectation, without performance, without the armor of your old identities, something ancient awakens. Not something new, but something forgotten. And it doesn't shout, it doesn't make a spectacle of itself. It simply says, here I am, I have been waiting. And it has been waiting, not for your perfection, not for your productivity, but for your presence. The divine does not require you to be extraordinary. It requires only that you be real. Not more, not better, just real, just present, just willing to stop running and start receiving. Because what's waiting for you isn't on the mountaintop of accomplishment. It's in the valley of surrender, in the soft earth of your being, in the unpolished truth of who you really are when you stop trying to become what the world demands. You were never meant to be exhausted. You were never meant to chase your worth across deserts of scarcity. You were meant to sit beside the wellspring of your own being and drink deeply. And when you do, you become full, not full of noise or titles or things, full of truth, full of peace, full of the knowing that says, I am already enough. I do not need to strive. I do not need to chase. I only need to allow joy to come in ways you didn't script, to allow healing to arrive through the cracks you once tried to seal, to allow love to pour through when you thought you were too broken to hold it. This is not wishful thinking. This is sacred alignment. This is how the universe speaks, not in lightning, but in light. Not in volume, but in vibration. And if you dare to quiet yourself, to stop chasing, to let the moment be enough, you will hear it. You will feel it. And it will be unmistakable. There is a humility that descends when you finally stop trying to force open doors that were never meant for you. Not the kind of humility that belittles, but the kind that exalts the soul by freeing it from the weight of its own expectations. In that release, something sacred unfolds. You begin to see that nothing you were chasing was ever about the thing itself. It was always about the feeling you thought it would give you, the freedom, the peace, the sense of being enough. But what if you could feel that now? Not when the world grants permission, but when your heart does. What if the feeling you long for is not waiting at the finish line, but rising within you each time you let go of needing the finish line at all? So much of our suffering comes from the belief that life is elsewhere, that our joy is hiding in the next step, the next partner, the next breakthrough. But joy is not a scavenger hunt. It is a state of being. And you enter that state not by chasing, but by arriving. Arriving in this breath, in this body, in this unfiltered moment. No embellishment, no improvement, just presence. When you stop running from what is and soften into it, you make contact with the divine. Not as a concept, but as an experience. You feel it in your chest like warmth, in your stomach like peace, in your mind like clarity. This presence is not manufactured, it is remembered. It is what's left when all the layers fall away. And when you live from it, everything changes. Not because the outer world suddenly bends to your will, but because your inner world no longer depends on it. You are free. Not in the sense that nothing affects you, but in the deeper sense that nothing owns you. You can feel deeply without drowning. You can desire without attaching. You can create without clinging. This is the art of dancing with life instead of wrestling it to the ground. And in this dance, timing becomes holy. You stop asking, why not now? And start trusting, if not now, then there is something I do not yet see. You begin to love the waiting. Not because you enjoy delay, but because you start to notice the miracles hidden in the margins, the people you would have missed, the wisdom that ripened while you paused, the strength you gain not from charging forward, but from standing still with open hands. There is no shame in not having arrived. There is no failure in still unfolding. You are not a problem to be fixed. You are a mystery to be revealed. And mysteries do not unfold by force. They reveal themselves when the heart becomes quiet enough to receive them. So sit with your becoming. Let it be slow. Let it be sacred. Let it be shaped by something greater than your need to prove. Because when you release your grip on the outcome, you finally make space for grace to move. And grace always moves in perfect rhythm. And when grace moves, it does so in silence, like dawn entering the horizon unnoticed until the whole sky is changed. It does not knock. It does not ask for credentials. It does not wait for you to be ready. It arrives the moment you stop resisting its presence, and it transforms not through might, but through remembering. You begin to understand that waiting is not the absence of action, but the presence of trust. Trust that there is a timing more intelligent than your planning. Trust that the seed does not need to shout to become a tree. Trust that your soul, too, knows when to blossom and when to rest beneath the surface of things, gathering its unseen strength. There is a season for stillness, a season for roots, a sacred pause before every great unfolding. And in that pause, something invisible is always happening. You are not stagnant, you are steeping. You are not behind, you are being carved into the exact shape that can hold what is on its way. But this cannot be rushed. You cannot pry open the petals of a rose and expect it to live. You cannot force a sunrise by shouting at the sky. The soul, too, opens when it is safe, when it is ready, when the light inside is strong enough to meet the light outside without flinching. That is the essence of allowing. Not passivity, but presence. Not giving up, but giving in to a wisdom deeper than your mind can measure. And the more you surrender into that wisdom, the less you need to explain yourself, the less you seek to convince anyone of your path. You become content to be misunderstood by the world if it means being understood by yourself. You realize that clarity does not require consensus. Truth does not need validation. The most beautiful trees never ask for applause. They simply grow. And so do you, quietly, gently, in the direction of your own light. Not because someone told you to, not because it's the most impressive path, but because it is yours. And walking, it feels like breathing, like returning, like a kind of remembering your bones have been waiting for all along. In that remembering, even the ache becomes sacred. You stop rejecting the discomfort. You stop resenting the tension. You start to see that every twist in the road was part of the unfolding. Not a deviation from the plan, but the exact route that softened you, shaped you, and brought you closer to your core. You don't need to chase healing. Healing is what happens when you stop running from the parts of you that are hurting. When you turn toward them with kindness, with presence, with a radical permission to be seen without needing to be fixed. And when you do that, when you hold your own ache like a mother holds her crying child, something opens. The tight grip loosens. The fear softens. The pain stops screaming and begins to whisper its ancient wisdom. There is intelligence in your wounds. There is guidance in your sorrow. There is clarity in the silence between all the striving. And if you are still long enough, those things you once chased will begin to gather around you, not because you captured them, but because you finally matched their frequency. Let this moment be the turning point. Let this breath be your agreement to trust again. Not trust in outcomes, but trust in alignment. Trust in your own soul. Trust in the mysterious, miraculous, invisible current that has carried you this far and is not about to stop now. And when you make that sacred agreement to trust not what you see, but what you feel, not what you can measure, but what you can know without proof, the universe responds. Not in thunder, not in spectacle, but in the quiet choreography of synchronicity, a sentence overheard, a sudden stillness, a door gently opening where before there was only wall. You begin to see that life was never against you. It was always listening, always responding to the vibration of your inner being. And when your inner being shifts from fear to faith, from chasing to allowing, life shifts with it, but not immediately, not all at once. Like a river changing course, it happens subtly, imperceptibly at first. But then one day you look around and nothing is quite the same. The colors are more vivid, the silence more profound, the ordinary moments shimmer with presence. Because something within you is no longer striving to escape this moment. Something within you has stopped waiting for a better version of now. And in that surrender, everything changes. You stop performing, you stop pretending, you stop measuring your worth by the speed of your becoming. Instead, you become deeply intimate with yourself. You listen to the voice within that has been speaking all along, not in the language of words, but in sensation, in stillness, in the soft pull toward what feels alive. And that voice, that sacred inner compass, will never lead you astray. It does not care about optics. It does not care about timelines. It cares only about truth, about resonance, about walking the path that belongs to you, even if it looks like wandering to the world. So many fear this path of allowing because it requires uncertainty, it requires patience, it requires walking without a map and trusting the stars instead. But the truth is, you've followed maps before. You've walked the well-worn roads, you've done what was expected, and still something in you was restless. That restlessness was not failure. It was your soul stirring. It was the part of you that refuses to be tamed by convention. It was the divine calling you back to your original rhythm, the one that does not march but dances, that does not strive, but sings, that does not chase, but shines. And to live from that place is to live as the sky does open, unbound, quietly holding both storms and stars without resistance. It is to trust that your worth is not a moving target, but a fixed truth. It is to know that even when life feels like a question, you are still the answer. You are the field in which it all unfolds. You are the awareness that watches the story, not the character trapped within it. And when you remember this, not in theory, but in the quiet of your being, you no longer ask, when will it come? You begin to ask, how can I be still enough to let it arrive? In this stillness, you realize there is nothing missing, that all you're chasing was never about lack, but about forgetting. Forgetting that you are already woven from the same silence that bursts the stars. Forgetting that your very breath is a bridge between heaven and earth. Forgetting that you are not here to find completion, but to embody it. And so the chase ends, not in resignation, but in revelation. Not in defeat, but in the dignity of remembrance. When you stop reaching outward, your hands are finally free to touch the sacredness of this moment, to feel the pulse of life, not as something you must conquer, but as something you belong to. You are not separate from the flow. You are not an outsider trying to break in. You are the current itself, alive, aware, unfolding. Every time you choose presence over pursuit, you realign with that current. You shift from manipulation to magnetism. You stop trying to convince life to love you and start living as though you already are. Because you are, because you always were. This is not a story of self-improvement. This is the song of self-revealing. There is nothing to add, only everything to uncover. And what you uncover is breathtaking, not because it is new, but because it is ancient and familiar. It is the sound of your own soul echoing through the corridors of eternity, saying, yes, this is who I have always been, before the striving, before the proving, before the forgetting. And when that voice rises, that clear, unwavering truth, you begin to walk differently. You begin to listen to your life, not as a problem to solve, but as a teacher whispering lessons in every leaf, every tear, every pause. You begin to understand that even the delays are deliberate, that even the silence has a shape, that the universe has always been on time. You were simply learning to tune in. To live this way is to live as the mystics live, not in cloisters, but in consciousness, not escaping the world, but seeing through it, seeing that every encounter is holy, every task an invitation, every breath a miracle hiding in plain sight. And in that awareness, you move gently, you speak softly, you stop needing to be right and start needing to be real. You begin to prefer depth over speed, truth over approval, peace over noise. The world may not understand this shift. It may still applaud the chase, but you no longer need its applause because you have heard the applause of your own soul. You have felt the quiet joy of being aligned. And that joy cannot be bought. It cannot be taught. It can only be allowed. So let yourself be still. Let yourself be soft. Let yourself be shaped not by pressure, but by presence. The chase is over. You have arrived, and everything is already here. And so we come not to an ending, but to a homecoming. Not the closing of a chapter, but the opening of your eyes to the place you never truly left. This path, this still and sacred path of allowing, does not conclude in fireworks or triumphs shouted from mountaintops. It concludes in silence, the kind that wraps around your spirit like a warm wind whispering, "You are already whole." You begin to understand in the marrow of your being that you never had to outrun the pain, outwork the fear, or outshine the doubt. You only had to stop running. You only had to turn inward. You only had to remember that you are not the storm, but the sky that holds it. Not the thought, but the awareness behind it. Not the seeker, but the sacred sought all along. And in this remembering, you are finally free. Free from the hunger that could never be satisfied. Free from the timelines that choked your joy. Free from the belief that peace is somewhere else, that love is someone else, that life must be earned. You look around, and nothing has changed, yet everything has. The world remains in its rhythm, but you are no longer resisting it. You no longer demand that the waves stop rising and falling. You become the ocean itself. There is a softness in your gaze now, a quiet in your breath, a space in your chest where once there was striving, you begin to meet life as it is, not with armor, but with open hands. You trust that the right doors open when you are the version of yourself who can walk through them. You trust that the right people find you when your energy no longer shouts lack, but radiates wholeness. You trust that what leaves was never yours, and what stays cannot be taken. You stop measuring your worth by what you attract and begin honoring it by how you allow. You no longer need to manifest from scarcity because you are no longer trying to fill an emptiness you are creating from the overflow of your being. And oh, how magnetic that becomes. Not because you are trying to be anything, but because you've surrendered everything that is not you. The masks, the roles, the chase. What remains is pure, it is real, it is divine. You do not need to prove the light, you only need to be it. And being it does not require effort, it requires presence. The willingness to stop and see that the miracle is not around the corner, it is now. It is here, it is you. The healing, it's in your breath. The peace, it's in your pause. The love, it's in your being quietly shining, waiting not to be found but to be felt. So breathe again, deeply. This moment is not a bridge to the next. It is not a waiting room for your destiny. It is your life. This, now, here. The sacred is not coming. It has arrived. Not because you chased it, but because you finally allowed it. And now, beloved soul, may you live not as one who is seeking, but as one who is found. May you walk not as a beggar of grace, but as its embodiment. May you rise each day not with urgency, but with reverence. May you speak only from truth, move only from presence, give only from wholeness. And when the world pulls at you to run, to strive, to earn your place in the light, smile gently. Return inward. Feel the silence. Feel the presence. Feel the universe rushing not away from you, but toward you. Always. Not because you chased it, but because you remembered you are it. And it has been waiting all along for you to simply stop and allow. Amen. There is a sacred intelligence flowing through everything, through the stillness of the forest, through the crashing of the waves, through the heartbeat that pulses within your chest. It is the same intelligence that keeps the planets in orbit without asking them to strive. The same force that turns an acorn into an oak, that paints the skies in hues no human hand could ever replicate. This is not randomness. This is not chaos. This is design, sacred, silent, and sure. And you, dear soul, are part of this holy unfolding. You were never dropped into this life as an accident. You are not a random flicker in a dark cosmos. You are a thread in the divine tapestry that weaves galaxies into being. And though you may not always see the pattern, though your eyes may fill with tears and your heart tremble beneath the weight of unanswered prayers, still the universe is not confused. The plan is not unraveled. The path has not disappeared. What feels like uncertainty is often just the soul being asked to trust more deeply. There is a divine timing beyond your intellect, a sacred rhythm deeper than your fears. Like the tide, your life rises and falls not to harm you, but to shape you, to mold you, to hollow you in the places where the light must enter. You are not behind, you are not lost. You are exactly where the universe needs you to be for your becoming to unfold. It's hard, I know. It's hard to trust when the road ahead disappears into mist. It's hard to breathe when the heart is heavy with what might never be. But the soul was never designed to see the whole map. It was designed to listen, to feel, to respond to the gentle nudges, the quiet callings, the soft currents that pull you toward your truth without explanation. Rumi once wrote, "Try not to resist the changes that come your way. Instead, let life live through you." And that is the essence of trust, not a blind faith in outcomes, but a deep surrender to presence, a knowing that even if the form changes, the essence remains divine. That even when doors close, it is only to redirect you to a greater alignment with your spirit's calling. The ego will clamor for guarantees. It will demand certainty, plans, and control. But the soul whispers a softer language, one of surrender, one of trust, one of deep inner knowing that everything is always, always unfolding for your highest good, even when it doesn't feel like it. You see, the pain was never punishment. It was pruning. The loss was never rejection. It was redirection. And the delay was always preparation. You were being shaped not for the life your ego imagined, but for the life your soul chose before time began. And so, breathe, not to fill your lungs, but to remember your belonging. The breath has always been your first teacher. It comes without force. It goes without fear. It doesn't ask where the wind is heading. It simply trusts the exhale. This is the way the universe works, not through tension, not through force, but through easeful surrender to what island. The trees do not grasp at the sky, they rise into it. The rivers do not question the bends, they flow through them. So why must you demand to see the horizon when the next step is already enough? You are not here to micromanage the infinite. You are here to harmonize with it. To tune the strings of your heart to the silent music that underpins all of life. There is an order beneath the disorder. There is clarity within the confusion. The caterpillar does not curse the cocoon. It allows the darkness to be the temple of transformation. And so must you allow the not knowing to be your sacred ground. Do not rush it. Do not force it. Let the chrysalis do its holy work. There is a reason your path is curved through detours and delays. Had you arrived too soon, your hands would not have been ready to hold the blessing. Your spirit was still softening, still stretching, still preparing to become the vessel through which miracles can flow. And now, piece by piece, breath by breath, that readiness is taking root not through striving, but through releasing the need to know how it will all unfold. The oak does not grow faster by doubting the soil. The sun does not rise quicker because the world pleads for morning. Trust, beloved, is not a passive state. It is the most active alignment you can choose. It is saying, I will keep walking even when the map disappears. It is saying, I will bless the pause, for I know it is sacred. It is saying, I will not confuse stillness with stagnation, for the seed rests before it blooms. There is a rhythm you cannot yet hear, and yet you are dancing to it. Every setback was a note in the song, every heartbreak a chord in the symphony. Nothing has been wasted, not a tear, not a sleepless night, not a single moment of confusion. They are all pages in the sacred book of your becoming. You have not taken a wrong turn. You have taken the only turn that could lead you back to your soul. Even the ache, even the longing is part of the design. For longing is not a sign of lack. It is a homing beacon, a call from the future you toward the present you. It is the divine magnet pulling you home, not to a destination, but to an awareness that you were never forsaken, you were never alone, you were never forgotten. The universe does not abandon its creations. The same intelligence that orchestrates the galaxies whispers your name in every breath, not because it needs you to achieve or earn or prove anything, but because it loves through you. It creates through you. It experiences itself through your eyes, your hands, your laughter, your tears. And it guides you not always with signs you understand, but always with truth that your heart recognizes. Trust is not a conclusion, it is a practice. A daily return to the knowing that life is not a test, it is a teaching. And every lesson is an invitation to go deeper, not outward, but inward, into the stillness that has never lied, into the silence that has never left, into the sacred inner compass that points not to a goal, but to your essence. You were not meant to live this life trying to force open closed doors, nor to endlessly worry about whether the timing is right. You were meant to become the kind of being who trusts the closing as much as the opening, who reveres the silence as deeply as the song. Because the universe, in all its perfection, does not operate on your schedule. It operates on your soul's unfolding. It is not here to match your plans. It is here to reveal your purpose. And that purpose is not always revealed in words or visions or dramatic awakenings. Sometimes it comes softly through the loneliness that strips you down to your essence, through the failure that humbles you back into your heart, through the waiting that teaches you to love without conditions. These are not punishments, they are initiations. The universe is not withholding from you, it is deepening you. And that deepening, that sacred stretch into more of yourself cannot be rushed. You cannot demand the ocean to calm its waves, nor the moon to hasten her rise. What is meant for you is already held in the hands of the divine, but the hands of the divine do not shake. They do not tremble with anxiety. They do not panic. They hold you as you are held by the breath, gently, consistently, eternally. There are currents moving beneath the surface of your life that you cannot yet see. But just because you cannot see the tide doesn't mean it isn't carrying you home. Let yourself be carried. Let yourself be softened by the journey, even when it takes longer than your mind had hoped. The ego wants arrival, the soul longs for experience, and trust is the sacred bridge between the two. You are not here to master life. You are here to be mastered by love. By the kind of love that doesn't come wrapped in guarantees but in growth. By the kind of love that doesn't always bring comfort but always brings truth. And truth is rarely loud. It comes like a breath at midnight, like a warm breeze through a cracked window. It comes when you stop demanding answers and start living the questions. When you stop shouting at the sky and start listening to the silence. You are not forgotten. You are being formed. Like clay in the hands of a potter, you are being spun, stretched, refined, until you can hold the sacred within you. Not because you were broken, but because you were always sacred. It's just that the cracks allow more light to pour in, and that light is not just for you, it is for those around you. You are not just being guided for your sake. You are being transformed into a guide for others. Every delay, every no, every heartache has been preparing you to walk with more compassion, to speak with more truth, to love with more depth. Nothing was wasted, nothing. So can you trust it now? Not because you see the outcome, but because you feel the presence that lives in your chest when you stop trying to control. The presence that speaks not in thoughts, but in peace. The presence that says, you don't need to understand, you need only to allow. Let this be your practice, not the endless hustle for clarity, but the sacred return to stillness. The stillness that says, yes, even this belongs. The stillness that reminds you, the universe is not late, it is precise, it is exact, it is holy. And so are you. Every encounter, every tear, every serendipitous meeting, every aching goodbye, they are all threads in a tapestry far too vast for your eyes to see. You cannot yet perceive the full image. But the weaver is not confused. The weaver is not hurried. The weaver sees the end from the beginning and continues with perfect patience, even when your faith frays at the edges. You may wonder, why the waiting? Why the silence? Why must I walk through valleys when I long for the mountaintop? But the universe knows what the ego does not, that you do not find your light by fleeing the darkness. You find it by becoming the flame within it. Not by resisting what is, but by allowing it to awaken the parts of you that have not yet fully lived. The soil must be broken for the seed to rise. The sky must darken before the stars become visible. So it is with your becoming. You were never meant to bypass the shadows. You were meant to remember that even here, even now, even in the middle of your confusion or despair, there is a light inside you that has never gone out. That light has been waiting for your surrender. Not the kind of surrender that gives up, but the kind that lets go. Lets go of needing to know. Let's go of trying to fix. Let's go of clinging to a version of life that no longer fits the vastness of who you are becoming. And yes, it will feel like loss. But what if the loss is actually clearing space? What if the crumbling is not the end, but the sacred beginning of something more honest, more whole, more beautifully aligned? You do not have to fear what is leaving. You only have to trust what is coming. There is a plan, a divine choreography. And every heartbreak, every breakdown, every unexpected twist was not a deviation from the path, it was the path. You see, the soul doesn't evolve through certainty. It evolves through surrender, through the courage to say, I do not know what's next, but I trust the next step will appear when I am ready. Through the quiet strength that refuses to close its heart, even when the world offers every reason to. This trust is not the kind you manufacture with affirmations or declarations. It is the kind that arises from deep within, like a wellspring that cannot be explained. It is born in the silence, forged in the fire, and confirmed in the still, small moments when everything else fades and you feel the whisper, keep going. This is not the end. You are not being punished. You are being purified. The false is falling away. The roles, the masks, the stories you inherited from a world that taught you to fear, they are dissolving. And what remains is the real you, the you that was never separate from love, the you that was never disconnected from divine wisdom, the you that has always been held, guided, and known. And when you stop resisting what is, you begin to see what always was, that there is a sacredness in every turn of your life, that even the pieces you wanted to discard are part of the masterpiece. You don't have to know where this is all leading. You only have to remember where it all begins from within, from the quiet center that has never been lost, from the still point inside you that does not shift with the winds of life. That is your anchor, that is your home. And when you begin to live from that place, something miraculous happens. The fear softens, the striving slows. The path, though still winding, begins to shine with a kind of quiet beauty. Because now you're not walking with anxiety, you're walking with trust, with reverence, with a deep, unwavering knowing that you are not alone. The same presence that turns caterpillars into butterflies, that brings spring back after the darkest winter, that moves the tide without effort, that same presence lives within you, moves through you, whispers through your intuition and your dreams, and the sacred ache in your chest that refuses to let you settle for anything less than truth. And so, trust. Not because you've seen the proof, but because you feel the pull. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not forgotten. You are becoming. And the universe, the beautiful, infinite, wise universe, is not making a mistake with your life. There is something within you that has never doubted, not for a single moment. Beneath the noise of the mind and the tremble of uncertainty, beneath the aching need to understand and the longing to arrive there is something still, something ancient, something steady. And it has watched every turn of your life with the calm of one who knows the ending before the first line is even spoken. It is the divine observer, the quiet flame, the original awareness that chose to incarnate not to be protected from life, but to participate in it fully. It did not come to avoid storms, it came to become the eye within them. It did not come to avoid suffering, it came to discover how grace can arise even there, in the shattered places, like flowers breaking through concrete. So many times you have cried out, why this? Why now? And the answer, though rarely in words, has always been because your soul asked to grow. And this is how you grow. And what is growth if not the shedding of what no longer serves the truth of your being? What is growth if not the death of the mask and the birth of the soul's expression? It is not always gentle. It is not always easy, but it is always sacred. The universe does not abandon you in the fire, it holds you through it. It does not prevent the waves, it teaches you to breathe underwater. It does not promise comfort, it promises depth. And in that depth, you begin to touch a power not born of ego or effort, but of alignment. You begin to sense a plan that was never about control, but about connection. You see, the plan was never to protect you from every fall. It was to reveal to you that you could rise again. The plan was never to pave your path in ease. It was to awaken within you the strength to walk barefoot through uncertainty with your head lifted toward the stars. The plan was not to give you everything your ego desired, but to give you everything your soul needed to remember itself. And now you are remembering, not all at once, not in some grand epiphany, but in subtle shifts, in the quiet courage that rises with the dawn, in the way you begin to soften instead of close, in the way you begin to bless the past instead of curse it, in the way you begin to hear your own voice, clear and strong, guiding you not toward more of the world, but toward more of yourself. This is what trust looks like. Not blind obedience, but intimate relationship, a dance between your free will and the rhythm of the divine, a daily choice to return to the truth, that even when it hurts, even when it confuses you, even when it feels like you're walking through fog, the universe is not lost. It sees you. It knows you. It has never taken its eyes off you. And if you could step back just for a moment and see the full picture, you would fall to your knees in awe. You would weep not from sadness, but from the overwhelming beauty of how it's all been perfectly placed. Every encounter, every goodbye, every seemingly random delay, you would see the divine fingerprints on every inch of your path. But until that day comes, you are invited to trust. To trust not because it's easy, but because it's who you are. Trust is not something you learn, it is something you remember. You were born trusting. You were born soft. You were born open. You were born with the knowing that you were held, that you were guided, that you belong to something infinite and unshakable. And that knowing is still within you, beneath the scars, beneath the conditioning, beneath the weariness and the striving and the doubt. That knowing still lives, waiting, breathing, beckoning you home. And as you begin to live from that knowing, the world begins to change. Not because the circumstances suddenly improve, but because your eyes begin to see differently. The mess becomes medicine. The waiting becomes sacred. The unknown becomes holy. And the question changes from, when will things fall into place, to, can I bless this moment exactly as it is? For when you do, you step into the plan. Not the one your mind wrote, but the one your soul signed long before you arrived. And in that plan, nothing is missing. Everything belongs. This is the moment when something in you begins to settle. The breath finds its natural rhythm. The heart, once racing for some distant future, now learns to beat with the patience of the stars. The noise begins to fall away, not because the world has grown quiet, but because your attention has turned inward to the place where eternity whispers. You are no longer searching for the plan, you are starting to become it. With every step you take in trust, every act of surrender, every tear you no longer hide, you are merging with the divine design that was never outside of you. And what a beautiful, mysterious planet island. One that does not unfold in straight lines, but in spirals. One that does not cater to the ego's need for speed, but to the soul's need for truth. There is no map for this. Only presence. Only the next breath. Only the sacred yes that rises in your chest when everything else says wait. And yet somehow you know it's time. Time to stop delaying your joy until the conditions are right. Time to stop believing that life must look a certain way to feel meaningful. Time to stop thinking the divine is waiting somewhere down the road when it has been walking beside you all along in the silence and the struggle and the beauty of this very breath. Do not underestimate the power of where you are now. Do not dismiss this moment because it lacks the glitter of achievement. This moment is not a placeholder. It is a portal. It is the doorway through which the sacred enters. And only by being fully here can you begin to see what has always been true. That the divine does not reveal the whole path, it reveals itself in the step you're standing on. So take it, take this step, with trembling hands or steady feet, with full certainty or flickering hope, it does not matter. The universe does not require your perfection, it requires your participation. It requires your willingness to be present, to listen, to follow the quiet impulse of truth, even when the world tells you to run the other way. This is what it means to live in trust, to follow not the fear but the feeling, to know that not everything must make sense in order to be sacred. That some of the most important parts of your journey will only be understood in retrospect. And even then, you will see how beautifully the dots connected, how perfectly the lessons arrived, how masterfully your soul was being guided. You are being guided even now, even in the uncertainty, even in the pause, especially in the pause. This sacred stillness is not nothing happening, it is everything realigning. Do not confuse the quiet for absence. The quiet is where the voice of the universe becomes loudest. If you listen not with your ears, but with your being, you will begin to hear it. In the sigh that leaves your lips when you finally let go. In the flutter in your chest when something just feels right. In the sudden peace that arrives for no reason at all. This is the voice of alignment. This is the language of the plan. It doesn't speak in logic, it speaks in resonance, in vibration, in the magnetic pull that draws you toward what you were always meant to become. You don't need to force it. You don't need to chase it. You only need to keep saying yes to what feels true. And when you do, the right people arrive. The right opportunities unfold. The path reveals itself not all at once, but just enough to keep you moving in faith. There is no need to rush. What is yours cannot miss you. What is aligned with your soul will never need to be forced. And what is truly meant for you will always feel like peace, not in every moment, but in your deepest knowing. That is the sign. That is the plan. And you, beloved soul, are right on time. This is where the story deepens not into complexity, but into truth. For as you begin to live in harmony with the unfolding of life, you stop trying to rewrite the script. You stop trying to outrun the present moment. And instead, you begin to listen not for answers, but for alignment. Not for reassurance, but for resonance. It is here, in the quiet acceptance of what is, that you begin to feel something shift. You no longer ask, why is this happening to me? Instead, the question transforms. What is this revealing within me? You no longer see the unexpected as a disruption. You begin to see it as instruction. Every delay becomes a doorway. Every detour becomes divine choreography. Because when you begin to trust the plan, you stop needing to control it. You stop demanding that life follow your timeline. You stop insisting that joy must arrive only after the checklist is complete. You begin to feel joy now in the breath, in the silence, in the simple act of existing with your heart open and your expectations softened. And in that softening, you meet grace, not as a fleeting feeling, but as a way of being. Grace doesn't enter through perfection. It enters through surrender, through the sacred unraveling of all that is not essential until only what is true remains. That is what the plan has always been leading you toward, the shedding of everything false so that your real self can emerge. The self that doesn't need to strive, the self that doesn't need to compare, the self that doesn't need to explain or prove or defend, just the self that's simply island. And oh, what power there is in that, to know that you are already enough, that your presence is a gift, that your being just as it is not a waiting room for worthiness, but the very expression of divine intention. When you walk through life from that place of deep trust, you become the still point in a spinning world. You begin to carry a peace that is not dependent on outcomes, a peace that cannot be taken away by changing circumstances, a peace that has nothing to do with everything going right and everything to do with you being right within yourself. And yes, the world may still rage, the storms may still come, but you will no longer be shaken because your roots are no longer in your achievements or your titles or your plans. Your roots are in something eternal, something unbreakable, something that was never born and can never die. That something is you, the real you, the light behind your eyes, the breath beneath your breath, the presence that has walked with you through every dark night, every unspoken ache, every silent prayer. It has never left. And now, you are beginning to return to it. Not by seeking, not by striving, but by stopping. Stopping long enough to hear the wisdom rising from your own depths. Stopping long enough to feel the stillness that has always been speaking. Stopping long enough to remember the universe has always had a plan. Not because it needed to fix you, but because it already knew you were whole. And the journey was never to become worthy. The journey was always to remember that you already are. You have walked with me through this, remembering each breath a step back home, each truth a light through the fog. And now, here we are, not at the edge of understanding, but at the heart of it. And what does the heart say when all the noise has gone quiet? It says, trust. Trust not as a wish, but as a way of being. Trust not because the future is known, but because you are known intimately, completely, eternally. You are not lost. You have never been. You are not forgotten. You have always been carried. Even when your hands felt empty, even when your nights were long, even when the road made no sense and the map had burned in your hands, the path was still unfolding beneath your feet. This plan, this holy, sacred, beautifully mysterious plan was never about leading you to something outside of yourself. It was always about leading you back in, to the place before striving, to the stillness before identity, to the truth before words. It has taken form as people, places, choices, and changes. It has appeared as heartbreak and healing, as confusion and clarity, as beginning and ending. But beneath every disguise, the same voices echoed, trust me, I know the way. And now, so do you, because now you've tasted it. That sweet, silent knowing that you are not at the mercy of the world, you are woven into its fabric. You are not separate from the divine, you are its expression. The stars that you've prayed under, the winds you've whispered to, the quiet ache you've carried through the years, they have all conspired to bring you here to this breath, to this moment, to this remembering. You are not the architect of the plan. You are its sacred unfolding. And life is not waiting for you to master it. It is waiting for you to trust it, to partner with it. to co-create with it not through force, but through presence, not through pressure, but through peace. Let this be the moment you choose to stop doubting what your soul has already claimed. Let this be the moment you exhale the need to know and inhale the grace of being guided. Let this be the moment you forgive the past, bless the mystery, and say yes, not just with your words, but with your being. You were never behind. You were never broken. You were never without purpose. You are only being prepared to remember that the universe always has a plan, and it is more loving, more intelligent, more generous than your mind could ever imagine. So walk on, beloved soul, not with haste, but with reverence, not with fear, but with devotion, not with certainty of what lies ahead, but with the certainty that whatever comes, it will meet you with divine intention. Because now, now you remember, now you trust.